The great hall on Centauri Prime was filled with noise. 12 different alien species sat around a massive circle table. Their voices mixed together in angry sounds. Some clicked, some buzzed, some made deep growling noises. The emergency meeting had been going on for 3 hours. Admiral Jake Morrison sat quietly in his chair. He was the only human in the room. His uniform was simple blue and gray, nothing fancy like the colorful robes and armor worn by the other council members. Next to him, Commander Lisa Parker checked her datapad. She looked calm, but her fingers moved fast across the screen. The Zephyrian High Counselor Keth stood up. His tall, thin body cast a long shadow across the table. His skin was pale green, and his eyes were bright yellow. When he spoke, his voice was sharp and cold. "The matter is simple," Keth said. "Humans have colonies in 12-star systems that we need. The Zephyrian Empire is growing. We need those worlds for our people." Jake Morrison did not move. He just watched and listened. Then Vextil stood up slowly. The old Saurid warrior was covered in scars. His thick, scaly skin was dark red with patches of black. One of his arms was missing, cut off at the elbow. His remaining hand gripped the table edge. "You fools," Vextil said. His voice was rough and low. "You have no idea what you are talking about." The other council members turned to look at him. Some laughed. The aquatic delegate made bubbling sounds that meant amusement in her language. "Old warrior," Keth said with a smile, "your people lost to the humans 30 years ago. Of course you fear them, but look around. We are 12 species, working together. The humans are just one small race with old ships and simple weapons." Vextil's eyes burned with anger. "You think this because you have never fought them. You have never seen what they really are. What they really are. Ask the insectoid queen, her forearms spreading wide. They are soft creatures from a small world. They die easily. They have no natural weapons like claws or poison." Vextil shook his head. "That is exactly why they are dangerous. Every other species in this galaxy evolved on worlds that were kind to them. Warm suns, gentle. Rains, plenty of food. But humans? Their world tried to kill them every single day." He walked around the table, his metal leg making clicking sounds on the floor. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Massive storms that could destroy cities. Deadly diseases. Poisonous plants. Animals that hunted them. And still they survived. Do you know how? The room became quiet. They became the best killers their world had ever seen. They killed everything else that tried to kill them. They hunted animals bigger and stronger than themselves. They turned plants into medicine and poison into weapons. They learned to make tools from everything around them. Admiral Morrison still had not spoken. His face showed no emotion. Vextil continued. "When we fought humans, we thought it would be easy. We had bigger ships and better weapons. We attacked their small colony on Kepler 298. It should have taken one day to win." He stopped and stared at each council member. "It took us 6 months, and we lost." "Impossible," Keth said. "Your military reports said you won that battle." "We lied," Vextil said simply. "We were too ashamed to tell the truth. The humans did not fight like any other species. They did not line up their ships and fire at us like in normal space battles. They turned everything into a weapon. Mining equipment became bombs. Civilian ships became missiles. They used our own battle plans against us." The crystalline delegate made a sound like breaking glass. "You lost because you were weak. The Saurid are known for poor planning." Vextil laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Poor planning? We planned for 3 years. We studied every human battle we could find. We thought we understood them. But humans do not follow normal rules of war. He looked directly at Admiral Morrison. "Tell them, human. Tell them what your people did to my ships." Morrison finally spoke. His voice was calm and quiet. "We used the asteroid field to hide. When your ships came close, we detonated charges we had placed weeks before. The explosions sent rock pieces flying at incredible speed. Your ships were torn apart. See?" Vexthal said. "They planned for weeks. They moved tons of explosives without us knowing. They turned empty space into a killing field. This is how humans think. Everything is a weapon if you are smart enough to use it." Keth waved his hand. "Old stories from a small battle. We are talking about a full council action now. 12 species working together. Hundreds of ships. And the humans have had 40 years to prepare since that battle," Vexthal said. 40 years to study us, to learn our weaknesses, to plan new ways to kill us. Do you think they have been building pretty cities all this time? No, they have been getting ready for this day." The gaseous representative spoke in a voice like wind through pipes. "You give them too much credit. They are just another species." "No," Vexthal said firmly. "They are predators. The only apex predators that ever learned to build starships. Every other intelligent species evolved from creatures that ate plants or small animals. Humans evolved from creatures that hunted in packs and used tools to kill things bigger than themselves." Admiral Morrison stood up slowly. The room became completely quiet. He looked around the table at each alien face. "Honorable council members," he said politely, "I have listened to your proposal. You want my people to leave 12 star systems, so your people can take them. You are offering no compensation and no alternative worlds." "That is correct," Keth said with a smug smile. Morrison nodded. "Then I must respectfully decline your request." "It was not a request," Keth said, his voice getting louder. "It was an order from the Galactic Council. You will obey, or we will make you obey." Morrison's expression did not change. "I see. And if we refuse? Then we will remove you by force." Keth said, "You have 30 standard days to evacuate those systems. After that, our combined fleets will arrive to take control." Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke very softly. "High Counselor Keth, I strongly advise against that course of action." The aliens around the table started laughing. The sounds mixed together in a chaos of amusement. Only Vexthal was not laughing. He was watching Morrison's face very carefully. "You advise against it?" Keth said between laughs. "You and what army, human?" Morrison picked up his data pad and walked toward the door. Commander Parker followed him. At the doorway, Morrison stopped and turned back. "The only army that matters," he said quietly, "mine." As the humans left, Vexthal called out to the other council members. "You have just made the worst mistake in galactic history." That human was being polite. When humans stop being polite, entire worlds burn. But nobody was listening to the old warrior anymore. They were too busy planning their easy victory over the soft creatures from the small blue world. The message reached Earth in 12 hours. It traveled through the quantum communication network that connected all human worlds. By the time Admiral Morrison stepped off his transport ship, every human military base was already moving. General Peter Hayes stood in the war room deep under Colorado. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and resource counts. Officers moved quickly between computer stations. The air buzzed with quiet energy. "Report," Hayes said as Morrison entered. "They gave us 30 days, Morrison." "Side, 12 systems. Complete evacuation, or they attack with combined fleets." Hayes nodded. "Expected. Dr. Rodriguez, what's our current status?" Dr. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her tablet. She was small and thin, with gray hair tied back in a simple knot. All Omega protocols are active, sir. Project Switchblade is ready. Project Haymaker is at 80%. Project Sleeping Giant needs another week. What about the civilian populations? Morrison asked. Evacuation transports are already moving, said Lieutenant Colonel Sam Mitchell. He was a big man with short black hair and scars on his hands. We're telling people it's a routine safety drill. Most colonies will be empty in 10 days. Hayes walked to the main display screen. It showed 12 star systems marked in red. Gentleman, lady, we have been preparing for this moment since first contact. Every human who has worked in mining, construction, or terraforming has been training for war without knowing it. Morrison frowned. How do you mean? Dr. Rodriguez smiled. It was not a nice smile. Colonel, show him the numbers. Mitchell touched his tablet. The screen changed to show technical drawings. Every asteroid mining station built in the last 20 years has secondary systems. The mining lasers can be focused into beam weapons. The ore haulers can carry kinetic kill vehicles. The refineries can produce weapons-grade materials. And the terraforming equipment? Morrison asked. Even better, Rodriguez said. Atmospheric processors can create poison gas clouds. Weather control systems can generate killer storms. Ecosystem builders can create biological weapons that target specific alien DNA. Hayes pointed to another screen. Every human colony in the contested zones has been building according to Plan 7. Underground bunkers, hidden weapon stores, concealed manufacturing plants. The aliens think they're taking farming worlds. They're actually invading fortress systems. Captain Ben Taylor appeared on the communication screen. He was calling from the bridge of his ship, the U.E.'s Discovery. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations. General, Taylor said, we've completed deep scans of all 12 systems. Detailed maps are uploading now. We've identified optimal positions for kinetic bombardment, stellar body weaponization, and gravity well manipulation. Stellar body weaponization? Morrison asked. Chief Engineer Tony Walsh stepped forward. He was young and excited, with wild red hair. We can destabilize gas giant atmospheres to create massive explosions. We can alter asteroid orbits to create collision courses. We can even trigger solar flares if we position the right equipment. Morrison stared at the displays. You're talking about turning entire star systems into weapons. Not just the systems, Hayes said quietly. Everything in them. Every rock, every gas cloud, every piece of space debris. When the aliens arrive, they won't be fighting our ships. They'll be fighting the universe itself. Captain Nicole Grant entered the room. She was tall and confident, wearing a flight suit marked with new insignia. The experimental fighter program is ready, sir. 100 Ghost-class ships with full stealth capability. The aliens won't see us coming until we're already gone. What about intelligence? Hayes asked. Commander Dan Foster stepped out of the shadows. He was average height with a forgettable face. Perfect for his job. Our people have been on alien worlds for months. Maintenance workers, trade representatives, cultural exchange students. They're all military intelligence. We know the location of every major alien facility, every weakness in their security, every blind spot in their defenses. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. How long have you been planning this? Since day one, Hayes said. The moment we met our first alien species, we started preparing for the day they would try to destroy us. Every human who traveled to alien space was briefed. Every trade deal included intelligence gathering. Every cultural exchange was a scouting mission. Dr. Rodriguez brought up another display. We've been studying alien biology and psychology for decades. We know exactly how to break their morale, disrupt their command structures, and exploit their species-specific weaknesses. For example? Morrison asked. Zephyrians are pack hunters with strict hierarchy, she explained. Kill the alpha, and the pack scatters. Saurids have excellent hearing, but poor vision in certain light spectrums. Aquatics can't survive in low humidity for more than 6 hours. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell added, every alien weakness has been turned into a weapon. Sonic disruptors for the saurids, dehydration bombs for the aquatics, leadership decapitation strikes for the Zephyrians. The room was quiet for a moment. Morrison looked around at all the calm, professional faces. They think we're peaceful. Explorers. We are, Hayes said. We're also the descendants of the most successful predators in Earth's history. We explored our planet by conquering it. We'll explore the galaxy the same way if necessary. Captain Taylor's voice came from the communication screen. General, we're receiving new intelligence from our assets on Centauri Prime. The Alien Council is mobilizing fleets from 8 different species. Estimated arrival time at the first contested system is 28 days. Perfect, Hayes said. That gives us time to finish our preparations. Morrison watched the screens showing human ships moving through space. They looked like normal cargo, vessels and passenger transports. What about our official response to the Council? We send exactly what they expect, Hayes said. A polite diplomatic message asking for more time to negotiate, something that makes us look weak and desperate. Dr. Rodriguez laughed. While our real message is being delivered by every human who ever set foot on an alien world. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten Earth's children. The main screen changed to show a tactical display of the 12 contested systems. Each one was marked with hundreds of small symbols representing hidden weapons, concealed ships, and prepared positions. The aliens think they're coming to take our territory, General Hayes said quietly. They don't realize they're walking into the largest trap in galactic history. Morrison stared at the display. What if we lose? Hayes turned to look at him. His eyes were hard and cold. Colonel, humans have never lost a war that threatened our survival. We might lose battles, but we adapt and learn and come back stronger. We don't stop fighting until the threat is eliminated. And if the cost is too high, then we make sure they pay a higher price, Hayes said. Every human who dies will cost them 100 of their own. Every world they take will become a graveyard. For their people, we'll make this war so expensive that they'll never threaten humanity again. Chief Engineer Walsh looked up from his workstation. General, the final weapon systems are coming online. Project Ragnarok is ready for deployment. Morrison didn't ask what Project Ragnarok was. He was beginning to understand that humans had been preparing for total war while pretending to be peaceful traders and explorers. The communication screen chimed. Captain Taylor spoke again. Sir, alien scout ships have been detected at the edge of Kepler 442 system. First contact estimated in 72 hours. General Hayes nodded. All stations, this is not a drill. Humanity is going to war. God help anyone who stands in our way. As Morrison left the war room, he could hear the quiet sounds of a military machine activating. Across human space, millions of people were getting ready for battle. The aliens had given them 30 days to surrender. They were about to learn that 30 days was more than enough time for humans to turn the galaxy into a killing field. Fleet Admiral Rexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty Zephyrian dreadnought Conquest. Around him, his fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation. 47 ships from 5 different alien species, all united in their mission to teach the humans a lesson. Status report, Rexstar ordered. His yellow eyes gleamed with confidence. Approaching Kepler 442 system, Admiral, reported his tactical officer. Long-range scans show minimal human presence. 1 small frigate and what appears to be empty mining stations. Rexstar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. As expected, the humans have run away like frightened animals. This will be easier than we thought. On the planet below, human colonies had indeed been evacuated, but they weren't empty. Captain Steve Collins stood in the command center of what looked like an abandoned mining facility. Around him, his crew worked at hidden control, panels built into the rock walls. Admiral's fleet just entered the system, reported Lieutenant Maria Santos. 47 ships, just like intelligence predicted. Collins nodded. Signal the Defiance. Tell Captain Brooks it's time to play the frightened rabbit. In space, the human frigate USS Defiance drifted alone near the fourth planet. Captain Dan. Brooks sat in his command chair, watching the alien fleet approach. His ship was old and small compared to the alien vessels. Incoming transmission, said his communications officer. Put it through, Brooks said. Rexstar's face appeared on the screen. Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council orders. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Brooks looked nervous. He glanced around at his crew, who all peered scared. Admiral, please. We're just a mining support ship. We don't want any trouble. Then you should have left when ordered, Rexstar said coldly. Since you didn't, you will serve as an example to other humans who think they can. Disobey the Council. Please, Brooks begged. Give us a chance to surrender properly. We have families. Rexstar laughed. You had 30 days to surrender. Now you die. The alien fleet moved into attack formation. Rexstar felt pleased with himself. This would be recorded in history as the moment the Galactic Council established dominance over the humans. All ships target the human vessel, Rexstar commanded. Fire on my mark. But before he could give the order, something strange happened. The empty mining stations around the system suddenly lit up with energy signatures. What looked like simple or processing equipment started moving and rotating. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, panic in his voice. Those aren't mining stations. They're weapons platforms. The first barrage came from every direction at once. Massive particle beams lanced out from the disguised stations. The aliens had walked into a crossfire they never saw coming. Rexstar's flagship shook as energy bolts struck its shields. Return fire. Destroy those stations. But the human weapons platforms were just the beginning. The asteroids floating throughout the system began to move. Hidden thrusters activated, sending massive rocks on collision courses with alien ships. Evasive. Maneuvers. Rexstar shouted. The Saurid heavy cruiser Bloodfang tried to dodge a particularly large asteroid, but the rock split apart. Hundreds of smaller pieces spread out like deadly rain. The cruiser's shields failed under the impact of so much debris. On the Defiance, Captain Brooks dropped his frightened act. All right, people. Time to show them what we really came here to do. The small human frigate suddenly accelerated straight toward the alien fleet. To the aliens, it looked like a desperate suicide attack. The humans have lost their minds, Rexstar said. Focus fire on that ship. Multiple alien vessels targeted the Defiance. Energy beams and missile strikes hammered the small ship. Its shields failed quickly. Hull breaches appeared along its sides, but the Defiance kept coming. Admiral, Brooks said over the communication channel, his image flickering from battle damage. I want you to remember something. You came to our home. You threatened our families. Now you get to learn why that was a mistake. The Defiance's engines went to maximum power. The ship was falling apart, but it kept accelerating toward Rexstar's flagship. Destroy that ship. Rexstar screamed. More weapons fire poured into the Defiance. The ship was clearly dying, but it refused to stop Dot at the last moment. Just before impact, the Defiance's emergency transports activated. Escape pods shot out in all directions, carrying the crew to safety. The empty ship slammed into the Conquest's shields. Rexstar laughed. Foolish humans. Their ship is destroyed, and we barely felt the impact. Then the Defiance's reactor detonated. The explosion was not random. Human engineers had calculated the exact point of impact, the precise angle of approach, and the optimal moment for detonation. The blast was focused and directed, designed to punch through the flagship's shields at their weakest point. The Conquest shuddered. Emergency lights flashed across the bridge. Shield generators offline, reported the damage control officer. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 9. But Rexstar's problems were just beginning. The gas giant's moons, which had seemed like normal celestial bodies, suddenly came alive. Hidden launch bays opened across their surfaces. Swarms of small fighters emerged, moving too fast for the alien sensors to track properly. These weren't normal human fighters. They were modified mining drones, controlled by artificial intelligence, and armed with industrial cutting tools that had been turned into weapons. They swarmed over the alien ships like angry insects. "What are those things?" Rexstar demanded. "They appear to be mining equipment, sir," his tactical officer said in confusion. "But they're attacking us." The drone swarm targeted specific points on each alien ship. Engine exhausts, sensor arrays, weapon emplacements. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum damage. The aquatic carrier Deep Current tried to launch its own fighters, but human drones were already inside its launch bays. They had been hiding in the asteroid field for weeks, waiting for this moment. On the planet's surface, Captain Collins watched the battle through his monitors. "Phase 2, people. Time to show them our big surprise." Hidden facilities across this planet's surface opened. Massive railguns, disguised as geological survey equipment, rose from concealed positions. They had been built months ago, during the routine scientific survey of the system. The railguns fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. Chunks of dense metal accelerated to nearly 10% of light speed. At that velocity, they hit. With the force of nuclear weapons, the insectoid destroyer Swarm Queen took a direct hit. The kinetic projectile punched clean through its hull and out the other side, leaving a hole 20 meters wide. Rexstar realized with growing horror that the humans had turned the entire star system into a weapon. Every piece of equipment, every asteroid, every moon had been prepared for this battle. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human planet." "Put it through," Rexstar said grimly. Captain Collins appeared on the screen. He was standing in what was clearly a military command center, not the mining facility the aliens had expected to find. "Fleet Admiral Rexstar," Collins said politely. "I am Captain Steve Collins, commander of Kepler 442 Defense Force. I want to thank you for visiting our system. You planned this," Rexstar said. "Of course we did," Collins replied. "You announced your attack 30 days ago. That was plenty of time to prepare a proper welcome." Around Rexstar, his fleet was being torn apart by weapons that shouldn't exist and attacks coming from directions that made no sense. "This is impossible," Rexstar said. "You're just miners and farmers." Collins smiled. "Admiral, humans have been miners and farmers for thousands of years. We've also been soldiers for just as long. The difference is, we've learned that the best way to win a war is to make sure your enemy doesn't realize they're fighting one until it's too late." A massive explosion lit up space as another alien ship was destroyed by human weapons. "You see," Collins continued, "you made one big mistake. You thought we would fight you the way other species fight. Line up our ships, exchange fire, see who has better weapons. But humans don't fight fair. We fight to win." Rexstar's flagship was drifting now, its engines destroyed by drone attacks. Around him, what was left of his fleet was retreating in Panic. This isn't over, Rexstar said. You're right, Collins agreed. This is just the beginning. You wanted to see what happens when you threaten human colonies. Well, Admiral, now you know. And this was just one system. The transmission ended. Rexstar looked around his ruined bridge at his scared crew. Half his fleet was destroyed or crippled. The humans had turned a simple military action into a devastating defeat. As the surviving alien ships limped away from Kepler 442, Rexstar realized that the old Saurid warrior Vex Thul had been right. The humans weren't the peaceful explorers. They pretended to be. They were predators who had been waiting for someone stupid enough to threaten them. And the Galactic Council had just volunteered for the job. The news from Kepler 442 spread through Council space like a virus. Fleet Admiral Rexstar's defeat was so complete that many Council leaders refused to believe the reports. Half his fleet destroyed by mining equipment and asteroids? Impossible. High. Councillor Kef stood before the Emergency War Council, his yellow eyes burning with rage. Rexstar failed because he underestimated them. We will not make the same mistake. Launch full attacks on all 12 systems simultaneously. The order went. Out across Council space. 6 massive fleets, each larger than the force that attacked Kepler 442, moved toward human territory. This time there would be no mistakes, but the humans had not been idle. Colonel Jennifer Adams crouched in the maintenance tunnels beneath Centauri, Prime's capital city. She had been there for 3 months, posing as a trade representative. Around her, 50 other humans worked quietly in the darkness. Water Treatment Plant 7 is ready, whispered Sergeant Kyle Brooks through her earpiece. Biological agent dispersed through the secondary lines. Communications relay station is compromised, reported another voice. We can turn their own networks against them whenever you give the word. Adams smiled grimly. While the Council planned their attacks, humans had been preparing a different kind of war. The kind of war that Earth's history had taught them to fight. On the human research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Professor Mark Chun studied alien biological data on his screens. He was a xenobiologist who had spent years learning how alien minds worked. The Zephyrian nervous system responds to specific sound frequencies, he explained to his team. If we broadcast the right pattern, we can trigger their species panic. Response: they'll run from their own shadows. Dr. Amy Rodriguez appeared on his communication screen. Professor, the sonic weapons are ready for deployment. How long will the effect last? Approximately 6 hours, Chun replied. More than enough time for our forces to eliminate them while they're paralyzed with fear. In the asteroid belt around? Volf 359. Captain Lavra Davis commanded a converted mining vessel that looked like junk floating in space. Her ship, the Deep Strike, was actually a highly advanced stealth attack craft. Alien fleet approaching, reported her sensor officer. 87 ships, multiple species. Davis nodded. They're heading straight for our colony. Time to show them that space belongs to whoever controls it, not whoever claims it. The Deep Strike and 12 other hidden ships powered up their engines. They had been waiting in the asteroid field for weeks, using the rocks to mask their heat signatures. Major Chris Thompson sat in his cyber warfare center on Luna. Banks of computers surrounded him, each one connected to networks across Council space. His fingers moved quickly across multiple keyboards. Initiating Operation Confusion, he announced. All alien communication networks are now under our control. On the screens around him, alien battle plans appeared. But they weren't real plans anymore. Thompson's team had been slowly changing them for days, adding false information, wrong coordinates, bad timing data. The first attack came at the Ross 128 system. The aquatic fleet arrived expecting to find a simple farming colony. Instead, They found Captain Davis and her squadron hiding in a nebula cloud. The human ships attacked like underwater predators, appearing from the gas clouds without warning, striking fast, then disappearing again. The aquatic admiral tried to coordinate his defense, but his communication system was feeding him false information. Enemy contacts bearing 27 Mark IV. His sensor officer reported, but when the aquatic ships turned to face that direction, the humans attacked from the opposite side. Thompson's cyber warfare team was feeding the aliens fake sensor data, making them shoot at empty space, while human ships hit them from behind. At Tau Ceti, the Zephyrian battle fleet met Professor Chun's sonic weapons. The sound waves were broadcast from hidden transmitters throughout the system. When the Zephyrians heard the frequency, their pack instincts turned to terror. Fleet Commander Yethkal watched in horror as his own crews abandoned their posts and tried to hide in the cargo holds. The sound made them feel like prey animals being hunted by something much larger and more dangerous. "What is happening to my people?" he demanded. The human commander, Captain Tony Walsh, appeared on his screen. "You're experiencing fear, Commander. Your species evolved as pack hunters, but you also evolved as prey for larger predators. We found the frequency that triggers those ancient memories." While the Zephyrian crews cowered in terror, human boarding. Parties took control of their ships without firing a shot. The Saurid fleet attacking. Vega learned about human adaptability the hard way. They had studied the defeat at Kepler 442 and came prepared for asteroid attacks and hidden weapons. What they found instead was Captain Nicole Grant and her squadron of ghost fighters. The small ships were invisible to Saurid sensors, which were designed to track large prey animals. "They can't see us," Grant reported to her wing. "Their visual spectrum is wrong, and their sensors are calibrated for big targets. To them, we don't exist." The ghost fighters moved through the Saurid formation like deadly shadows. They attached explosive charges to engine compartments and weapon systems, then vanished before the aliens knew what hit them. When the charges detonated, it looked like the Saurid ships were exploding randomly. Their commanders thought they were under attack by some kind of invisible weapon, but the real terror was happening on Council worlds themselves. Colonel Adams and her teams had spent months preparing for this moment. As alien fleets attacked human colonies, human agents struck at the heart of Council space. On Centauri Prime, the water supply system began delivering chemicals that made the alien population sick but didn't kill them. Sick aliens couldn't work in factories or serve in the military. On the insectoid home world, human agents introduced a modified Earth virus into their hive networks. The virus didn't hurt the insectoids, but it made them sleepy and confused. Entire hive cities fell into chaos as their workers forgot how to do their jobs. The crystalline planets faced a different problem. Human hackers had taken control of their communication crystals, turning their own technology into weapons. Every time the crystallines tried to coordinate their defense, they received false orders that sent them in wrong directions. General Peter Hayes watched the battle reports from his command center on Earth. Every screen showed human victories. Not just military wins, but complete psychological destruction of enemy forces. "Status report," he ordered. "Zephyrian fleet at Tau Ceti surrendered after their crews refused to fight," reported Colonel Michel. "Saurid forces at Vega are retreating in panic." Aquatic fleet at Ross 128 lost 60% of their ships. "And our casualties?" Hayes asked. "Minimal, sir. 3 ships damaged. No crew losses. The enemy is defeating themselves." Admiral Morrison entered the command center. "General, we're receiving surrender requests from 4 different alien admirals. They want to negotiate." Hayes shook his head. "No negotiations. They wanted a war. They got one. Now they get to learn what happens when you lose a war to humans." On his screen, Professor Chun appeared from his research station. General, the psychological warfare is working better than expected. Alien crews are abandoning their ships rather than fight us. Their morale is completely broken. Good, Hayes said coldly. Fear is a powerful teacher. Maybe next time they'll listen when someone warns them about us. Captain Taylor's image appeared on another screen. Sir, alien news networks are broadcasting stories about human monsters and invisible death ships. They're calling us demons who can control their own technology against them. Hayes smiled grimly. Let them. The more afraid they are, the less likely they'll be to attack us again. Major Thompson looked up from his computers. General, I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout Council space. They're pulling ships back from the front lines. Retreating? Morrison asked. More than that, Thompson replied. They're abandoning the offensive entirely. Some species are recalling all their ships to defend their home worlds. Hayes studied the tactical displays. In less than 48 hours, the combined alien attack had turned into a complete disaster. Not because humans had better weapons, but because they had better understanding of how to break their enemy's will to fight. Sir, called out another officer, we're receiving a priority transmission from Centauri Prime. It's High Counselor Keth. Put him through, Hayes ordered. Keth's face appeared on the main screen. The proud alien leader looked defeated and desperate. General Hayes, I request an immediate ceasefire. Counselor, Hayes said politely, you started this war. You don't get to call timeout just because you're losing. Please, Keth begged. My people are dying. Our fleets are destroyed. Our worlds are in chaos. Hayes leaned back in his chair. Counselor, 30 days ago you gave us an ultimatum. You said we had to abandon our homes or face your combined fleets. Do you remember what Admiral Morrison told you? Keth nodded miserably. He advised against that course of action, Hayes continued. You laughed at him. You called us weak. You said you would remove us by force. Hayes's voice grew colder. Well, Counselor, you tried to remove us. How did that work out for you? The communication ended. Hayes looked around at his officers. Continue all operations. No mercy until they surrender unconditionally. Across Council space, alien commanders. 6 months after the war began, Vexthal stood in the ruins of what had once been the Galactic Council's most powerful fleet. The old Sorade warrior looked out at the wreckage floating in space around Centauri Prime and felt no satisfaction in Tanamiya. Being right. They should have listened to me, he said quietly to himself. The human transport ship arrived exactly on time. It was sleek and clean, showing no signs of the devastating war that had just ended. As Vexthal watched, human soldiers in pristine uniforms stepped out of the ship. They moved with calm confidence, like they had just returned from a training exercise. Instead of conquering half the galaxy, Admiral Jake Morrison walked across the docking bay to greet the Saurid delegation. His uniform was the same simple blue and gray he had worn 6 months ago. Nothing fancy, nothing threatening, just professional efficiency. Honored Vexthal, Morrison said with a polite nod. Thank you for agreeing to represent the Council in these negotiations. Vexthal's scarred face showed no emotion. I am here because I am the only Council member who understands what we are dealing with. The others are too terrified to face you. Where is High Counselor Keth? Morrison asked. In a medical facility, Vexthal replied. The stress of losing his entire fleet caused what your doctors would call a nervous breakdown. He keeps repeating the same phrase over and over. They turned our own worlds against us. Morrison's expression remained neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. They walked together through the human ship toward the conference room. Vexthal noticed that the corridors were filled with humans going about their normal duties. No signs of celebration. No evidence of exhaustion from a hard-fought war. They acted like conquering the galaxy was just another day at the office. How many of our ships did you destroy? Vexthal asked. That depends on how you count, Morrison replied. Ships we destroyed directly? About 200. Ships that destroyed themselves trying to fight us? Nearly 800. Ships that surrendered when their crews refused to fight? Over 1,000. Vexthal stopped walking. You defeated 1,000 ships with minimal losses? War isn't about having the biggest weapons, Morrison said. It's about understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves. We studied your species for decades. We knew exactly how to break your will to fight. They entered the conference room. President Ellen Murphy sat at the head of a simple table. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She looked like someone's grandmother, not the leader of the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. Please, sit down, President Murphy said warmly. Would you like some refreshments? I understand saurid physiology requires specific mineral supplements. Vexthal was surprised. You know about our dietary needs? We know about everyone's dietary needs, Murphy replied. And their sleep cycles, their mating rituals, their religious beliefs, their psychological weaknesses, and their military capabilities. We've been studying all of you since first contact. General Peter Hayes entered the room and took a seat across from Vexthal. The Saurid warrior recognized him from intelligence reports as the architect of the human victory. General, Vexthal sighed, your campaign was ... impressive. Thank you, Hayes replied simply. Though I should point out that this wasn't really a campaign. It was pest control. Murphy shot Hayes a warning look. The general means that we treated this as a defensive action, not a war of conquest. Vexthal understood the distinction. You could have destroyed us completely. Yes, Murphy said without hesitation. We could have sterilized every council world and eliminated your species entirely. The fact that you're sitting here alive means we chose not to. Dr. Amy Rodriguez placed a data pad on the table. These are our terms for ending hostilities. Vexthal read through the document. His eyes widened as he realized what he was seeing. These terms are surprisingly reasonable. You seem surprised, Murphy observed. I expected demands for tribute, territorial concessions, slave labor, Vexthal said. But you're only asking for reparations for the evacuation costs, recognition of human territorial claims, and representation in future council decisions. Morrison leaned forward. Vexthal, we don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. But if anyone threatens us again, the response will be much more severe. How much more severe? Vexthal asked. President Murphy's grandmother's smile didn't change, but her eyes grew cold. This was just our military, Vexthal. We haven't even shown you what our corporations are capable of when properly motivated. General Hayes added, our military exists to break things and kill people efficiently. Our corporations exist to make profit. If you force us to turn our economic power into a weapon, the results will make this war look like a children's game. Vexthal felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen what human military efficiency could do. The thought of human economic power being weaponized was terrifying. What do you mean? He asked. Dr. Rodriguez answered. Human corporations can crash entire planetary economies overnight. We can manipulate trade routes to starve worlds of essential resources. We can introduce products that create dependency and then withdraw them to cause social collapse. And that's just the beginning, Murphy added cheerfully. Our entertainment industry could bombard your worlds with cultural programming, designed to change how your children think. Our pharmaceutical companies could create medicines that your people need, then control the supply. Our technology firms could make your civilizations dependent on human innovations. Morrison nodded. Economic warfare is much more devastating than military action because the victims don't realize they're under attack until it's too late. Vexthal stared at the peace terms again. They looked generous, but now he understood they were actually a warning. Accept these reasonable demands, or face something much worse. I will recommend that the Council accept these terms, he said, quietly. Excellent, Murphy said, her warm smile returning. We look forward to peaceful relations with all Council species. As they prepared to leave, Vexthal turned back to face the human leaders. I have one question. Why did you pretend to be peaceful for so long? Murphy and Morrison exchanged glances. We weren't pretending, Murphy said. We genuinely prefer peace. But we learned long ago that the best way to maintain peace is to be so dangerous that no one wants to fight you. Your species made one critical error, Morrison added. You assumed that because we choose peace, we're incapable of war. But humans have been fighting for survival since we climbed down from the trees. Everything else we've learned since then has just made us better at it. General Hayes stood up. Vexthal, I want you to take a message back to any species that might be watching this conflict. What message? Humans are the apex predators of a death world, where everything that survived learned to kill or be killed. We've been polite for the last 40 years because we chose to be polite. But if anyone mistakes our politeness for weakness again, they'll discover why even our own planet fears us. The Saurid warrior left the meeting with the signed peace treaty and a new understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. As his ship prepared to depart, he composed a final message to be broadcast across known space. To all species beyond Council territory, his message began, you will eventually encounter the humans. They will seem friendly and peaceful. They will offer trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They will appear to be just another young species exploring the galaxy. Do not be fooled. Humans are not like other species. They are the survivors of a world that tried to kill them every day. They learned to turn everything around them into weapons. Their tools, their food, their art, their music, their stories. Everything they create can be weaponized if necessary. They will be polite to you. They will respect your customs and try to understand your culture. They will offer fair trade, deals, and reasonable diplomatic solutions to conflicts. Accept these offers. Be grateful for their politeness, because if you ever force them to stop being polite, you will learn that humans don't just fight wars. They fight to win so completely that their enemies' children will tell stories about them in the dark. As Vexthal's ship jumped to hyperspace, President Murphy stood at the observation deck of the human vessel. Admiral Morrison joined her, watching the alien ship disappear among the stars. Do you think they learned their lesson? Morrison asked. Murphy smiled. Vexthal did. Whether the rest of the galaxy learns depends on how well they listen to survivors. And if they don't listen? Murphy's expression didn't change, but her voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then they'll join the survivors. Or they won't survive at all. Back on Earth, life continued as normal. Children went to school, adults went to work, families gathered for dinner. The war that had terrified an entire galaxy was already becoming history. But in hidden facilities around the solar system, new weapons were being designed. Improved strategies were being developed. And human corporations were quietly studying the economic vulnerabilities of every known alien species, because humans had learned the most important lesson of survival. The best way to avoid future wars is to make sure that anyone who might start one understands exactly what they would be fighting. The galaxy now understood. Humanity was not just another species to be pushed around by those with bigger fleets.